I believe we are live. Thank you so much for joining me today, Maria and Susmitha. We are here to talk about what everybody wants to know, and they love to hear from, especially from experts such as yourself, who've been in the industry for such a long time. So first off, I want to test and see if we are live. So just give me a second here. While I do this, I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and I would love for both of you to go ahead and introduce yourself, and I'll go third. Okay? I'll pass the stage to Maria first.
Thank you so much for having me. And it's such a pleasure to be here with you, Susmitha and Fatima. My name is Maria Viteratos, and I'm a career strategist. I try to help my clients and my students understand that your career is a very dynamic process, very emotional journey. And when you are thinking about your life experiences and plotting work within your lived experiences, you find that work becomes more purposeful and also more meaningful. And I'm always one to say, build a strategy and try not to react to turbulent trends, and definitely don't fall into the fear of the AI taking jobs.
Thank you, Maria. And we have Susmitha as well. Susmitha, please go ahead.
Hello, lovely, happy Monday. Lovely to meet you, Maria, and always it's lovely to meet you, Fatima. I have been in recruitment and talent acquisition for 8 years now, and I was for the last 2 years, I'm running my own business called Flat Gigs, where I help founders and startup and scale ups feature their talent as their primary business strategy and not take a back seat. So I basically advise people on what talent they should hire, right? So, and what, when, and how. So this has been my journey for quite some time now. I have been in Gulf for 3 years, and yeah, so I think when it comes to AI, I think it's just here to stay. We just have to navigate how we use it and how we can make ourselves better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Maria and Susmitha, for joining me today on a Monday evening, just a day before the long, lovely holiday that we all, so joyfully await in the UAE. This is one of the longest holidays that we look forward to. And I want to thank each and every one who is joining us live today, or those of you who are watching this as a replay. And if you're just tuning in, just out of the blue, what we're doing here is we are going to be talking about the UAE market, the GCC market, or basically the job market in general. And, there has been a lot of uncertainty in the market, and people are having a lot of questions. And I've been doing coaching for the last 5 years, and I feel like some of the questions are repetitive no matter the situation. And I wanted to host this panel today with experts such as Maria and Susmitha. I would like to introduce them from my perspective, because one thing I always notice is you always say a little lesser things about yourself, whereas I'd like to say more. So I met Maria in one of the live panels that I met her in LinkedIn, actually on LinkedIn, where we were hosting a similar panel session. And Maria has been in the industry for about 11 years now. She's a career strategist. And I love what she does, because her work stands at the center point of human relevance. How relevant are you in this age and time? She focuses on AI, but in this age and time when we are constantly being compared to one thing or the other, She focuses on how we can use the human relevance to put ourselves forward. She works with a lot of universities, and she is also a doctoral researcher. So once again, Maria, thank you so much for joining us. And second off, we have Susmitha. I met Susmitha about, I think, 5 years now. Susmitha, is that right? When not 5 years, 4 years, 2022 end, right? So 4 years now, and when she was right about moving to the UAE, and I've seen her career blossom in the industry. She went on to become a co-founder for Flat Gigs and has a wonderful team helping employers understand that the amazing people that they're looking for have been right in front of their eyes all along. You just need to look in the right place. So I hope you both are very happy with the introduction I've given you. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Fatima Williams, and I am a career expert. I've been a HR professional for almost 12 years, after which I started Dream Career Freedom Academy. As the name says, Dream Career Freedom. You have the freedom to dream, and you also will have the freedom to get the career you love, but you definitely have to work towards it. That's my philosophy. And today in this panel, we are looking forward for questions from the audience. So I'm going to be back and forth looking on LinkedIn. Please do go ahead and ask your burning questions. And to set the context here, once again, we are not here to talk about anything political. We are here to talk about the job market. We are here to talk about what is happening in the employment industry right now and how you can better position yourself to be able to attract those opportunities. Yeah. So the first question I want to go ahead and ask our panel here is, we always have some sort of challenge one way or the other, right? I think as human beings, we are prone to it. We are constantly facing something or the other that comes up. And what is the one thing that you want to set as an intention for today's discussion? So I always love to have an intention, and my intention is that you walk away erasing that doubt you have in your mind. That's my intention. For when I say you, I'm talking to the audience. I'm talking to everyone who's joining us live. So I'd like to pass it on to Maria. Can you tell us what is your intention for joining us today, and what would you like to set as an intention?
My intention is always the same. I want anyone watching this right now to disrupt the status quo of what they've been believing without really challenging. So that's my intention.
Thank you, Maria. And Susmitha, what would your intention be?
I think I would love for people to take away 3 things that they can actually apply in their job search from tomorrow or right now, right? Any practical suggestions that they can take, and it just clicks that idea bulb in their head saying that, oh, this is the way that employers think or recruiters think, and how we can be visible to them. So
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, Maria and Susmitha. Given everything that's actually happening right now in the market, the first question was, what is that one mindset shift? And you've actually answered that through this question of what is the intention, which is we want our audience to walk away with. Is that mindset of being able to go beyond whatever challenges that are being thrown at us at the moment, right? So with that foundation, what is actually making this job market, the job search, the hiring process harder than it needs to be? Because it's always been a Tom and Jerry race here with the employment and recruitment. I want to add some humor here, because obviously the employer says I can't find the employee, and the employee says I can't find the employer. So with this Tom and Jerry race that is happening here, what is actually making this process harder than it needs to be? So what can professionals actually do about it? So shall we go in the same order, Maria, Susmitha, so that it's like a pattern? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Sure.
fine with that. I think the question that you've raised is definitely one that we want to be focusing more on, but I want your audience to understand that first, you can't generalize. I think this is the biggest mistake that candidates make. They have these like grand generalizations. It's hard. Everybody's, finding it difficult, or there are no jobs. So I think the first thing you need to do is stop generalizing. The second thing I would tell candidates is to stop, copy pasting CVs and like sending them out in bulk. I think what we have to remember, particularly if we're focused on the UAE, this is a community built social context. And when you see that and understand that, then you realize that you need to be human to human connecting. And I think sometimes candidates make the assumption that it has to happen virtually, but anyone that I know that has found work or looked for candidates, they tend to go within their circles before they go out into the larger market. Another, thing that we want to remember is the UAE is a very competitive place to be before anything, right? So we think about the UAE and we think the best candidates, the best companies, within organizations, we have the grandest visions. So if you're a candidate that is someone that will go the extra mile, you need to be showing up in the right places. And there's many other things, but I'm going to leave it at those three, and then I'll pass it on to Susmitha.
Thank you, Maria. You actually set the stage for what I was about to speak. I think it's just if I tell people that, when you're job searching or when you're looking for a candidate, you should look where the candidate is, or you should look where your founder or your employer is, right? Vice versa. Now, I have spoken to a lot of candidates and they have asked me, okay, we are applying for Naukri, Bayat, and everywhere, but we are not getting opportunities. Your skill is not the skill is not the problem, the volume is, right? And you are, like Maria said, you have to go the extra mile, you have to show up where your future employer may be. So my advice to people is, if there's a meetup, go have that. And one of my friend actually is moving to UAE. My advice to her was, get on LinkedIn, stalk everybody, write, ping everyone and meet for coffee one-on-one, so that you talk about what you have learned from India and what is going on in UAE, and we have to bridge the gap, right? So it's all about what problems are there in the company or in the industry and how your skills can solve it, right? And that's how I approach recruitment or hiring as well. I look at what problem the person will solve in the company and then look for similar skills. So that's how I think people will stand out.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shushmita, and thank you, Maria. Yes, indeed. What is making it harder for people at the moment is obviously going about it the wrong way, right? So both of you have actually told them what not to do and what to focus on, which answers one of our audience's question. She asked us, what is important in the UAE market? Is it relevance or is it reference? I like that question. Do you want to take this question? Because of course you did answer it, but if you wanted to give a short addition to whatever you said, relevance or reference, because I think Maria answered relevance, and Sushmita just answered reference. If I'm right with the way you answered the question, right?
So I think we have to remember, this question, what it's suggesting is that there's a right way and a wrong way to go about doing this, right? And you have to remember that when you're in a turbulent labor market, and by turbulent, I mean challenging, oversaturated, and now in the addition, many organizations looking at a slower season because the UAE is also seasonal. Summertime, Eid holiday, people tend to travel more at this time of the year. It's also we're heading into quarter three of our budgets, and organizations are looking at slowing things down. So in a normal season, this would be a quieter season. And so when you're looking at questions where it's like, is it this way or that way? The assumption is that there's a right way and a wrong way. And I think this is the biggest challenge that candidates put themselves through. When you're looking for an opportunity for work, it's not about getting it right or wrong. It's about, as Sushmita said, it's connecting with individuals and being the human candidate, and connecting with people on a human to human level and thinking, well, what haven't I done yet that I can do differently? So to answer this question, is it relevance or reference? First, I think I need more reference around what that reference means. But for me, it's always relevance. If I'm going to hire you, I need to know not only that you are going to be able to complete the tasks that I'm looking for, but also that I can rely on you to be part of the inter-community that we have within the organization, and also to know that you're an individual that's growth minded, looking at solutions as opposed to just constantly finding more problems and many other things. And what I'm suggesting is that there's no right or wrong. Every employer will be looking for something different. So we have to stop with the generalizations, and finding a job is more about mind over action. And by that, I mean, it's a game of resilience, persistence, and it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? So any individual looking for work, if you're in the season of unemployment, that already means that you feel time, pressure to find something. But if you're an individual that isn't in that time crunch, then you want to be investing in proactive solution finding for that job process. And if you're in that part of like, I need a job now, you have to train yourself not to get overwhelmed and anxious and stressed, and, find ways that will allow you to kind of make it through the unemployment journey without losing yourself, and avoid the temptation to say, this is right and that's wrong. I hope that made sense.
Absolutely. I love that, because it's always an either or. Like the other day I went for a meeting with experts and leaders, and there was this lady who is running a business, and she said, why does it have to be an or world? Why can't it be an and world? So here, the relevance and reference are both important. So, we're always choosing this or that. We have to try multiple methods to see what works for you as a candidate in particular, because picking and choosing is what sets you up for that fatigue that the job search actually gives. And the single biggest mistake I am seeing as someone who's worked with a couple of candidates in the last few months alone, considering the situation that the market has been through and it's recovering right now, is desperation, right? When you are communicating desperation instead of value, automatically, first of all, your value has dropped. So even if you are an expert, even if you are so good at what you do, the human mind is biased, right? We are all biased some way or the other. There's some sort of a programming that's been done. And how do you get over that bias? By not communicating desperation, but communicating value, communicating that I am relevant, and here are my references, here's what I can do. I believe that would also add on to what Maria said, unless Sushmita, you want to add something to that.
I feel with AI, everything, right? If you are a computer science engineer, what sets you apart is your designing skill, right? AI can do the coding, right? AI can do the debugging, but design and your problem solving will set you apart, right? How you are building and how you approach a problem is also very, very relevant to how I will see the value of a candidate, right? And when you are communicating, you have to understand that other person might not know anything about your field. And you have to make sure that your value and your knowledge is on full display, right? I remember Fatima, when we initially started talking, you're like, why are you so, timid? Why are you so shy? Just be yourself. Tell what you did, right? And we don't. Usually, we shy away from our achievements and we tell people our problems really loud. I think what we have to do is make sure that what problem the company is facing and what skills we have are relevant to each other. And that's how you will build connections and showcase your value.
Absolutely, because it's I feel like you need to approach job search like dating. Because if there's no compatibility, it's not happening. It's either with the employer or the HR. The interview, you get to know the minute you are reading a job description. And what happens is, data suggests that people don't apply to, let's say if there are 10 jobs that they are applicable, that are applicable to them, they would apply only to probably half of them, not all the 10. If there is even one thing that's missing out, they immediately consider themselves automatically out of the competition. And you've already, you're already reducing yourself from the pool where you can actually be considered for a role. And with this market, where exactly I feel like a lot of people feel frozen, applying everywhere, hearing from nowhere. And I think this is the honest conversation that we need to be having with them, is approach this in a way where you would approach someone you love. If you were searching for the love of your life, how would you approach it? Or if you were buying something for your mother or your father, how much care would you take towards buying that item? Or if it was your loved ones, right? You would take so much care. So you have to approach your job search in that angle. I don't know if that makes sense, but Maria, if you can add some career context to it, I think it will be great.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is you need to really know the type of employer you're applying to. And I think, again, it comes down to the long game. Remember, when you're applying for work, particularly if you're unemployed, the instant default that an individual will have is, I need a job. Let me just apply to everything. Or I need a job, but oh my goodness, I won't even get this, so I won't even bother applying. What I would say works best in the UAE, after having lived here for a little over 30 years, what I've learned is that before the job even opens up, you have to be in somebody's mind, right? So Susmitha talked about connecting your skills or showing your relevance in connection to what the employer is looking for. You already have to be top of mind. most employers look within before they go out, whether it's a company policy or just because the employer, really wants to make sure that they're not just finding any talented person, but they're finding an individual that will seamlessly fit within the organization, community, and culture. So if you're not already top of mind, and I'm not talking about being top of mind of the managing director, of the CEO, but you have to be top of mind of somebody within the organization. And that means that you have to do the work before the opportunity is even on somebody's mind. So Susmitha talked about, her friend in India and coming and having coffee conversations. What I see is that people get those conversations wrong when they're looking for jobs. So instead of going into the conversation and just connecting with the other person, learning more about the other person, they live a whole life outside their company. And most people, when they're at networking events, they really don't want to talk too much about what they do because they're coming to meet other people. So if you're going to be connecting, you want to make the person feel like you were actually listening to them. And when you leave the room, you want to make sure that they remember not that you were looking for a job, but they remember that you made them feel relevant, valid, seen, and heard. You want to come across as someone that they could refer on to their employer. And when they're referring on to their employer, yes, they're going to be connecting skill to opportunity. But before anything, most likely they'll be saying something like, I met this really interesting person, or I met this really talented person that worked for company X. I think they'd really fit. If you're not top of mind, then you're going to be among the thousands online looking for an opportunity. So I think for me, when I'm helping students and clients, I'm always saying, I have to think about you before I need you. And if I don't remember you before I need you, how are you expecting me to remember you when I have hundreds of CVs on my desk? So I would say, make sure that you're visible. Use your branding, and branding is not just if you own a company. You have a LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn gives you free access to create your personal brand on this platform, write really interesting articles, comment in interesting ways on people's posts, and add as much video content as you can. Because if I can see you in a video, I'm not wondering if ChatGPT wrote your post, right? Because that's what we're seeing a lot of. I could go on and on. Susmitha, get me to stop and jump in there.
I love that because, that is so true. Right now, we need to agree that we live in a world where there are more takers than givers, right? And I think the job search process needs to be approached, especially when you are approaching a person for a job search. People automatically assume that because they have a job, they need to get it. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but that doesn't work that way. It works exactly like how Maria said, that you need to actually fit into that company. You need to fit into the culture. You need to fit into the organization as, someone who would actually be able to be aligned with their mission, their vision. Imagine if your values are different and the company has different goals, you're going to be not doing well in that organization for the first 90 days itself, and automatically you are setting yourself up for failure. So you need to look at organizations, or you need to look at your job search in a way where it's mutually beneficial for both of you. And when you approach the job search process, or when you're approaching a person, like Susmitha said, it's not about you, I want a job. It's about, what I advise my clients to say is, try to understand what problem are they exactly trying to solve in this role. Now, yes, if it's an IT job, obviously they're trying to find someone to do the IT work, but what happened to the previous guy? Why didn't it work? Or, why were they not able to fill the role? Or what is exactly the organization's goal with this IT person? What are they trying to achieve? So when you dig deep and try to understand, you can give them more example as to how you are relevant to the role, or how you can make their life better by being a part of that organization. Most people approach the job search in a sort of a needing perspective, like I need this, I need that. Rather, if you approach the job search as I can help you do this, I can make a difference in these areas, immediately the thought process of the other person is no longer that you wanting something from them, but rather giving something to them, right? So I think you need to approach it in that way to stand out, because standing out in the job market is not just about having an AI polished resume or a LinkedIn profile. You need to actually sound like a real person, because obviously with AI right now, there's a lot of what do you call that? Duplication of content and duplication of, like, I read a resume the other day and I couldn't read it. I think regular people don't use words like that. On, like, I was, and I'm like, you don't use words like that. Like, regularly when you speak to somebody, you don't say words like that. How are you going to put those words on your resume? You need to read each and every sentence on your resume to be able to communicate what you can do for the organization. So I'd like to say that. And the next question to our panel would be, the data, as per the research, suggests that 72% of UAE professionals want to switch jobs. That is existing employed professionals. We're not even talking about unemployed. That's a different story, right? And uh, 65% of the employers say that they are, like, it's sort of difficult to find people. So, yes, you said we've told them how they have to approach, but why are people not finding each other? If you can add a little more actionable actions that they can do, that they can take to solve this bridge, or bridge this gap.
What I have seen in the market is both are reactive, right? You have a problem, you want to fix it, so you want to hire a person, and this person left the job or is unhappy and is looking for a better opportunity. But both of them have a gap. They don't know what problem they want to solve, and he doesn't know what skills he has to solve the said problem, right? So when you are talking about solutions, when you're talking about value, and when you're talking about bridging that gap, then you are combining the two, and both of them find each other. Also, what I have noticed is everyone, uh, so Naukri, Indeed, and Bayat, and everything, or every job board has its own, as a recruiter, they have their own set of profiles that we go or approach that job board for, right? And what I have seen is the candidates are in the wrong job board.
In the
When
wrong
I
job
talk
portal.
job portal, right? So a compute I will not approach a computer science engineer or a backend engineer on Naukri. I will approach him on GitHub or on LinkedIn, where they are more active, right? And where I can actually see the sample of their work, right? And a photographer, I will be approaching them on Binance, not on, say,
Yeah.
Naukri or everywhere, right?
Yeah.
I can approach an accountant on Naukri. So that's how you have to know where your candidate is, and they have to know where their employers are seeking. And that's where I think they will find each other. This is
Love it.
the actual problem that I have seen, right?
Yeah.
And And this lady who I was speaking to, she was like, I'm applying for everywhere. I'm like, where are you applying? She's like, everywhere, but not on LinkedIn. Because LinkedIn, so many people are applying. I said, just apply. You don't have a job, you're looking for a job, just apply. Because sometimes what happens is people, like you said, Maria, people will directly go into their application tracking system, ATS, and look for relevant profiles before they post the job.
Yeah.
So being the system is not bad. Yes, spraying and praying method I don't like, but you have to. This has worked for me. I used to apply for every job that I got, but the job that I was really interested in, I would personal message the hiring manager or the hiring person, right? So that I can just stand out. And going back, that always worked for me. And that's how one of the fintechs reached out to me for interview process after 2 years, right? So it works sometimes. Yeah.
Wow. After 2 years, they reached out to Maria. What do you have to add to that? I think you're on mute. Or you.
Yeah, Susmitha said some really relevant golden nuggets there that I think your audience should really take in. But the big takeaway is the 2-year piece. See, it takes time. And so you have to be patient. And I'm going to say it again, stop generalizing about all or nothing, right? That's so important. And I always question people in their choosing of where to work. Like the UAE is becoming one of the largest countries in the world with the most entrepreneurs and the most startups. These are organizations that are just at the beginning of their journey. There's pros and cons to working for a startup, but if you're looking for an organization or a company and an employer that is growth-minded, innovative, excited, and you want to have direct contact with senior leaders, why aren't people looking more to these startups? So I do understand that most people look to those larger organizations. The packages used to be larger, but I think the job security in that larger organization is no better than a startup. The only difference is that when you're working for a startup, okay, maybe the salary entry might be lower, but the purposeful work will be increased. Your connection to your employer will be increased. Startup employers are always, or tend to be, I won't generalize, tend to be more grateful to their staff because they are so connected to the problem they're solving, the product they're developing, the service they're building, and they're really connecting with their members of team. So I would say if an individual is saying, I can't find a job, I would question, what type of companies are you looking for jobs at? Are you like trying everything? And how many startups have you applied to? And all you need to do is go to your local coffee shop. Most founders are sitting in a cafe working on their laptops. I had my laptop, I had a sign on it that said, ask me about your career, ask me a career question for free. I can't tell you how many people would pass by, look at my sign and hesitate to talk to me. And then I'd have the really brave ones sit down and talk with me. I've managed to connect a total stranger to an employer just because they had the courage to speak to me. So the big learning there is speak to people, they're everywhere. They're all around you. And I, just going back to what Susmitha was saying is, tell yourself that this is not a drive-through job finding market. This is build connections, and you have to be consistent. And like Susmitha, look out for a company that you really want to work for, build that relationship, and you never know, you might be able to get that opportunity.
Absolutely. I love that. There is a saying that opportunity favors specialists, not generalists. If you are general, or if you're doing the same thing that everybody is doing, you're going to be getting the same sort of responses. There's no point of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. You need to try different things to get different results. There's an organizational psychologist. He's written the book 10x is better than 2x, and right, he's also written the book Your Future Personality Isn't Permanent. And he says that we need to use. He talks in terms of business, to entrepreneurs, but I can say this applies to job seekers and career transitioners as well. That you need to use divergent pathway thinking for your job search. So, what does that mean? You need to see the different paths that you can take towards the job that you want to have. So, if you are targeting a job right now, you shouldn't be targeting just that job. You need to be targeting the job you're going to be working 3 years from now, as well as you're targeting the job you're searching for right now. What do I mean by that? I mean that this organization or this particular job should prepare you for the next job as well. Most people, they just are looking to satisfy a need at the moment, like I want to get a job, I want to get a salary, but then they pick the wrong company, or they're looking to work in a part of a large organization which can sometimes easily lay them off if they are not equipped with the right skills. Layoffs are happening, but again, if you are having those skills and if you're positioning yourself well, these problems will not happen. And even I want to bring this question here, is why do people hesitate to ask people? It's because I think there's a lot of confidence problem, uh, especially when a person is working, the confidence that they have approaching a job drops down almost 30 to 40% immediately when they become jobless. Why do you think that happens?
Susmitha, would you like to go first?
I think I'll just give my example, right? So throughout the school, you are told, okay, you finish your 10th, give your 10th boards, then you can enjoy, right? Then you give your 12th boards, then you can enjoy. Finish your college, then you can enjoy. Get a job, then you can enjoy. So somewhere we actually relate our happiness or our value to our achievements or to a job, right? And not the skill set, not what we have done. So that's where when you have a job, you are socially acceptable, right? And when you don't, you're not socially acceptable. So your confidence actually goes down. It may not be because your skills are not relevant or you are bad worker. It can be that the CEO made bad decisions about the finances and
Yeah, actually, that's the
the
truth.
yeah, and you are on the chopping block. But that's that's how we see specifically Southeast Asians, right? And that's how we see the value. I have my grandfather, not my grandfather, my grandfather's brother. Every time I see him, how much do you earn? How much did you save? How much uh, investments did you do? I'm like, why do you need it? Right? Why is my worth from a paycheck? Right? I have a dog, I have a cat, I can cook food, I can survive. That's also my worth, right? So I think we have to stop attaching job and company and brand name with our worth, right? Our worth is what we actually can do, right? and what we are beyond work. So I am very proud to say that I'm a pet parent, I'm a part-time chef, right? And I'm a runner now, right? So, and reader,
Boxer also.
right? Boxer, yes, boxer. Yeah, so there are so many aspects of you, not just a recruiter or a computer science engineer or whatever. You can be whoever you are.
Love that. Maria, do you want to say anything to that? No?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I think what we also need to remember is that your career is a lifelong journey, and your life is full of milestones, which means you're going to have different experiences through your life, and your career is going to require it to be different and have a different purpose at different stages. So when a candidate is looking for a job, what they want to really think about is, what stage of my life am I in right now? And what are my needs and my wants, but also my non-negotiables. So when you're looking at all of those things, you're realizing that the job that you're looking for may not need to be the job of your dreams. It might just need to serve a specific purpose. So if it's serving, for example, it needs to pay the rent, then you need to define, what that number will be, and you want to detach all the other things that Susmitha was talking about in terms of your value and how you label yourself and what you identify yourself. So when you start to understand that your life is filled with different milestones and your job is not forever, it's pivoting, then you start to detach from the emotion of this has to work, right? And we also need to remember that the employer, if the employer works for a large organization, the ones that most candidates try to get jobs at, they're just another employee like you. And so, they are looking to tick the box of their KPIs. And at the same time, they're also responsible for bottom dollar of the organization, right? So when you're looking at a startup, and this is why I encourage candidates to really start thinking about working for startups. When you're looking at a startup, the founder of the startup is looking at success, and they're looking for candidates that can help them move the dial in the organization, and they're looking for long-term connections. They don't want high turnover. So you have a higher likelihood of learning more. You mentioned about generalist versus a specialist. If you're working for a startup, the founder needs you for a very specific reason, but at the same time, they need to know that you can do multiple tasks as well. So you have to be really good at the skill that they're bringing you in for. But if you have other hidden skills, you definitely want to kind of make those shine. So what I'm trying to say to candidates is, you have to remember that your career is not about getting a job. Susmitha talked about the pivots of how we were socialized through our education. Career theory is very, very linked to that social process. And I think most candidates forget that it's not about the job. It's about so many other things. So I think your question was around the confidence piece, right? And I think that everyone is a different type of individual. And we also have to look at cultural pleasantries. We have to look at cultural and social expectations. So there's many reasons why one individual would come forward and speak to me and another individual might not. So we live in a country where there's over 200 nationalities. And that means that everyone is looking through the lens of their social upbringing, and they're applying for jobs thinking about that lens, as Susmitha discussed. So when you're thinking about confidence, what you have to say to yourself is, I have to stop thinking. That's the first thing. And I have to really show up. and do it in the most professional manner. And I think also the level of professionalism is not unilateral. And that means that, different individuals will have a different perception of what professional is. But standard professionalism is, be kind, be polite, be mindful of the other person's attention, and don't take advantage, I think, of an individual. And don't worry too much about not fitting in, because when you do, then you are your own obstacle to confidence. So I know I was kind of jumping around, but what I was trying to show is that there's a real process to the entire career journey of an individual. So detach from the emotion. Look at startups. There are so many startups, and there are many, many more opportunities for candidates in startups than there would be in these larger organizations.
Absolutely. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Susmitha. That was really, meaningful what you said, because approaching this whole process of a job search by detaching yourself from the outcome is very important, because rejection is inevitable. We are rejected like every single day in some way or the other. Rejection is like it has to be like a part and parcel of the job search process. And in fact, if you are actually getting rejection or emails from the HR, directly, obviously not the ATS rejection emails, it means that at least you're doing something right. So it's actually a good thing. Now what you can actually do is focus on, why am I getting rejected? But if you're not even getting rejection emails, then there's something wrong with the whole process, where what Susmitha said, that you're looking in the wrong place. For example, I used to do a lot of IT and hospitality hiring. I'm not going to be looking for like a lot of hospitality profiles will be on Naukri. A lot of IT profiles or HR profiles or senior leadership profiles will be on Gulf Talent. There'll be some other profiles on Bayut. So each and every job board has a specific purpose. And also, as a HR or an executive search leader, we don't have the budget to have an account in every job board. Like Naukri alone, I think they used to charge, I don't know, 25,000 a year to employers for a subscription of, I don't know, so many thousand CVs that you can download. This is for job seekers. If you don't know what's on the other side of the table, is employers need to pay these platforms money to actually download your CV or to even look at your CV, right? And LinkedIn gives employers just 15 days, or I think 7 days of free job posting. They have to pay more than 300 dirhams or 500 dirhams. What's the cost now? I don't know, for one job ad. So just imagine that there is like, and that's why startups, very few of them, they post all the jobs. Most of them are looking at getting people hired through word of mouth, or going on LinkedIn and actually searching on LinkedIn in the search column. And if you are not connected to the right people, you're not going to be found by the person looking for you. So it's a situation again where you can't find the employer and the employer cannot find you, and you end up thinking that the problem is you. The problem is not you, but rather the problem is how you're approaching the job search. So I wanted to wrap up the confidence question saying that. And so there's an interesting question here from the audience. Deepak Raj, let me first call out all the people who joined us here. Thank you for joining us. Deepak, Satish Narisaman, Mr. Slim Montero, is given an advert there. Yasir Ghazali, and then we have Dr. Zuhair Ali, and Mr. Shaukat Hussain and Raja Zishan. So thank you everyone for joining, and also Mr. Khalil Lagari, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, for giving some advice on what skills you need to build if they are in the UX CX product management field. So the question is, how do I qualify the right people to connect to? How do I qualify them?
Simple.
But
If you are a marketing executive, go to head of marketing. Simple. go to the highest person possible, right? That's how you qualify. Do not go to HR because HR has 2000 resumes a day to look at, right? You have to go to the concerned department and the highest person in the concerned department, because they will have a say in the hiring hiring decision at the end. So that is my advice.
Thank you. Maria, do you have any suggestions on qualifying people?
I think when in my interviews with employers, so I've interviewed employers across the globe, and in these conversations that I've had with them, I ask the same question: is, who decides? Is it you or HR? And I'm always told the same thing. They tell me, Maria, I sit down with my HR and I tell them what I need. They put together the job specs and they go out. They're responsible for bringing me back candidates. If I'm not happy with their candidates, I might go to a different recruitment office, or we might deal with a different company. However, they always come back to him or her desk, right? So if you want to qualify, you need to qualify with that first port of entry, from what I've been told. And that means that if you're applying to these adverts on LinkedIn or on job portals, the first person that you want to qualify for is the ATS, if it's a large company, right? Or the filter on LinkedIn. So first protocol. Once you make it through that, then you have to think, well, who's next? It most likely will be the talent department, and they're vetting hundreds of CVs to then decide the top 20 that are going to go onto the employer's desk. However, in saying that, employers have also told me, if we hear of someone, we will go to the person responsible for finding these candidates and say, has this person applied? Please look out, right? So I would say, think about the entry point that you're in and make sure that you qualify at that entry point. If you qualify, then it's like gamify it. Qualify in the first entry, try to qualify in the second entry. And while you're qualifying at the first and second, also, as Susmitha saying, go to the person of that department, not because by sneaking around you're going to get it, but because you're like, hi, remember me? I've applied. And so they're going to put in a word and they're kind of going to look out for you. This is what I've been told by employers.
And it's absolutely right. In my 15 years of working as a HR and a recruiter, this is exactly how the whole job search process works. They give us the specs, we go ahead and market it, but sometimes there is a disconnect as well. So if you're going to reach out directly to the person who's hiring, then you have a much better chance to explain how you are qualified for that role, because the HR knows how to qualify you, but they're in the same industry as you, or they're doing the same role as you, so they would kind of understand the language you're speaking. So it is not just the leaders that you can reach out to. You can reach out to fellow colleagues as well, your future fellow colleagues in the team itself, and try to ask for reference and say, hey, what, I saw this job, I've applied on the portal, I've sent an email to the HR, I haven't heard back. I was wondering, how did you get hired? What did you do differently to be a part of this organization? Can you give me some advice? Because I really like your organization because of A, B, and C. You need to do some research before going and asking for a job. You need to know and understand what the company stands for and what they're trying to solve before you go and ask for a job. And this particular answer that Maria and Susmitha have given for the qualifying of people is the same thing applicable when you are actually there was someone here in the audience saying, I don't have GCC UAE experience. Unless you're a HR, you shouldn't really think that your experience is undervalued in this country. It's definitely not. I think it's a myth that people think that if I don't have UAE or GCC experience, I cannot get hired. Can we bust this myth? Because when I came to Dubai in 2015, I came with 5 years of HR experience, and I definitely did get a job in every company that I applied to intentionally, saying that I have these qualifications by positioning myself as to why they need to hire me. So, can we bust this myth, Maria and Susmitha?
So I think, again, what we have to stop doing is generalizing. Okay. So one employer will require GCC experience and another employer might not. Another myth that you want to bust is that there's one way to do it. Again, like, we have to stop doing that. We're also, I feel like the conversation we're having is pitching at those larger organizations, right? Where the individual hiring is so far out of our reach that we really can't connect. So we have to remember, think carefully about your entry point. So if you're new to the country and looking at, your first entry point, if you were unable to find opportunities and lock down interviews where you were applying from, that means that you're going to be entering the country and you want to start building those relationships. Another thing in leadership, there's a leadership theory called the relational leadership. And what that states is that your social influence within the organization is a lot stronger sometimes than not, right? So when you're thinking about your social influence, again, you want to be the person that we actually want to hire, not because you're the smartest person in the room, but because you're actually a nice person and I wouldn't mind having you, in my office working with me. I always say to clients, I can teach you skills. I can't teach your personality. That's something that you have to evolve and adapt, right? So if you're thinking about, the entry point, or if you're thinking about what HR is looking for, you're right, Fatima, you definitely have to do your research. But if you're applying to large organizations, most often what you see on the website, their brand, their vision, their mission, is not aligned with the individual that's actually hiring you. So that's why I say, if you can, I feel like I'm promoting startups, but I feel like there's so much career growth within these startups. There's so many opportunities to take your valuable experience and build on it. But as an individual, you have to be an actual person and not just, I'm looking for a job. Who wants to hire someone that is looking for a job but really doesn't know anything about my company? So I think those are important points.
Yeah. It's not just the best, people want to give jobs to people they trust, and people and how do you build that trust in such a short amount of time? Because you obviously don't know that person. You're talking to them for the first time, and the way to build that trust to be able to qualify for that role is to add more and bring more to the table by explaining to them through research, by preparing yourself, by positioning yourself as someone they are looking for. And startups would actually grab people who have worked in large organizations or worked in corporates, because they would have so much of experience, and they would obviously be able to they may not be able to pay as much, but if you are picking the right startup and if it's well positioned, you can definitely also match on the salary, is what I believe. Because there are a lot of startups that have popped up in the UAE, even despite all these market conditions, is what research says. So yes, if you're a job seeker in the UAE, go to those coffee shops. You might see Maria there. Where do you sit, Maria? Let us know.
I'm all over the city, and I'm not alone. I'm most of my colleagues are, that we're working all over the city. But, there's another thing that, remember my intention to disrupt status quo, how we think things should be, right? Every person looking for a job has found a problem that they need to solve. How do I find a job? Right? So we already have an opportunity to create something that we can monetize on. So what I'm trying to say is, if you're looking for a job, you have to stop thinking there's only going to be one job, one 9 to 5 that's going to get you. You need to prepare yourself for that side hustle. So
Yes.
I work for a startup, right? Am I making as much money as I was making when I was at a 9 to 5? Not yet, but in a couple of years, I'm going to be making 4 or 5 times what I was making. In 4 or 5 years working at that company, I might not have even gotten promoted once in that time. So you have to look at the marathon and not the sprint. That makes a lot of sense when money is not, you're not trying to pay the rent and meet
Yes.
those basic needs. But at the same time, we live in a part of the world right now where you're allowed to work for more than one entity. You're allowed to run your own side hustle with the right legal, licensing, and you're allowed to work for an employer. And anyone listening to this now that's saying, but my employer doesn't want that, well, I guess you're working for the wrong employer. So when you're looking for an opportunity and you're sitting down and they're telling you, do you have any questions? I would say 2 things. Number one, tell me a story about the individual that you hired that you felt you couldn't let go of. What were the patterns and traits and qualities that person had that, I need to really take it, learn from? Another question I would want to know is, how do you feel about members of your team building their own businesses while working for you? These are 2 types of questions that tell you a lot about the employer and also give you an indication of what your future will be at that organization. So these are the types of things that make a candidate feel more empowered and also give you an indication about the type of leader that you're going to be working for. If you're working for a leader that is transformational, that means that they're solution driven, they're open, they're innovative, and they want teams like that. If you're going to be working for a transactional top bottom type leader, then your job is to get your job done and you want to stay in your lane. So I think candidates have to think carefully about the type of company they want to work for, and they also need to think carefully about the type of employer they want to work for. And then that makes you start to look at finding jobs differently. So I would rather candidates apply to few but more quality conversations than to apply to the masses and really not understand the type of opportunities. And I'll stop right after this. Anyone that, picks up the phone and says, I need a job. How did you get your job? It's like walking up to a total stranger on the street and saying, I have no money. Can you give me money? Right? Who's going to want to have that kind of conversation with you? It's like finding a pearl in an oyster shell. So you have to develop your communication skills before you start to go out there.
Absolutely. That is a perfect way to actually kind of wrap up today's live session, because the future of the UAE job market right now is beautifully evolving, is what is my outlook. How is it evolving? It's looking out right now. The generalist, yes, they are valued. You are being hired. The specialists, you are being sought after. But I think the approach itself is completely changed. It's no longer of apply and get anyone on board. They're very intentional. Employers are very intentional about who they are hiring.
I think we lost Fatima.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm back.
There you are.
Yeah, so yes, I was saying, they're being more intentional about who they are hiring. So I wanted to wrap up the question with, how the future of the UAE job market looks like. And, we can call it a day then, because we don't have any more questions in the audience, I believe. Yeah. Do you guys want to say how do you look at the future of the UAE job market right now?
Susmitha, why don't you go first?
Oh my God. I feel like I'm on the spot. I think there are some sectors that are booming. There are some sectors that have slowed down. Uh, to give you examples, uh, the tech, right? Startups are booming, right? They're forever. And you don't need to be in UAE to work for them, right? They are more than happy to have you as a remote resource and help them out, right? And it's way cheaper for them, by the way, just to have you remotely. But as you said, property sales have gone down. So property consultants and everyone, the jobs are a little less, right? So what I want the uh, candidates or the job seekers to understand is that you have to realize what the trends are, right? You have to debug the trends or debug when people are saying, okay, the market is slowing down. They have to realize what kind of market is slowing down. So yes, make your own conclusions. So that's what I want to say. Thank you.
I think adding on to that, for me, it's an entrepreneurial labor market right now. So this is the time for individuals to think entrepreneurial, I think Susmitha said this earlier on, start to do the research, find the problems that organizations need solving and be the solution to their challenge. I always tell my clients and students, pick about 5 companies a week, study them like you would a final exam, reach out to them, find a problem that you can see that they might not be seeing and solve it for them. After, ask them for a meeting to give them more of that solution. It's not a way of manipulating, it's a way of showing them what you can do before they need you, right? That's so you have to be entrepreneurial. This is a time where even if you don't want to open your own company, anybody out there, whether they're working as an employee or working in a side hustle, entrepreneurial is the way forward. We're living in a very disrupted world of work. Let's forget the word labor market. This is a world of work that has been very disrupted. We're looking at lowering our costs, increasing our efficiency. Employers are turning to technology to lower their costs and increase their efficiency. You have on one end of the spectrum people saying this about AI, and the other end of the spectrum people saying about that. So if you don't know how to be entrepreneurial, you're going to fall behind, and that's the only way to think about it. So build your side hustle, find a trade that you can do, or build your skills. Stop defining yourself by your university degree and start connecting with employers human to human. And I'm going to give it another shout out. Start connecting with startups. They are the most innovative, excited, determined, growth minded, and they're looking for talent that can help them move that dial. So if you are passionate about what you do, go to every entrepreneurial conference there is, or start checking out all the coffee shops and dress like your brand. So if you're a creative, don't come to me in a suit and a tie. I'm going to be like, dude, where's your creativity? Right? So really start to understand your brand and have fun with it.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you so much for saying that, Susmitha and Maria. Especially developing those entrepreneurial skills is super important, because I think as individuals, you're not just an employee. You're a mother, you're a sister, you're a daughter, and you are a friend. You have so many skills, and you can look at the different transformative skills you have that can help you stand out. Get a course. Today with AI, you can study anything. Go on Udemy, Coursera, EDX. There are so many free courses. Develop those skills. Practice. Get an internship if there's if you find that it's difficult for you to learn those skills online. Pick a mentor. I am happy to say that I have been a mentor for Susmitha as well. Since she came into the market in Dubai, and I've seen her, the way she's grown in the market, positioning herself as an expert, and today having her, I think this is the third time I'm inviting her as a panel. I love hearing her talk. She has so much of potential, so much of ideas, and you just need to be able to share that out loud so that the right person can hear that idea. Even as a job seeker, you just need to share out that value that Maria was talking about as to how you can solve their problem. And no, it is not manipulative. This is exactly what I tell my clients to do. Pick a company, pick a problem, make a presentation and tell them this is why you need to hire me. If you're not hiring me, this is what you're going to be losing out on. This is how direct, and that's how I ask them to approach jobs employers, to make them understand, because of the competition in the market, you need to be able to communicate why you, right? Why you? Why not the other person? So to communicate that, you need to be able to tell them that these are the areas A, B, and C as to why you need to hire me. And that is what the future of the job market is. The future of the job market is positioning yourself in the right way in front of the right people. There is always going to be something or the other. Like today, I wrote an article. In 2008 there was a financial crisis, 2020 there was COVID, and now this year we had these problems. But every time the market has a problem, the jobs that are going to be there are the jobs that are for people who are constantly evolving themselves, are constantly equipping themselves with the skills that the market needs. If you can't adapt to the market, you're going to be left behind. But if you can adapt, and if you can be approaching it with a positive mindset that no matter what, I can get a job. Just to end this on a positive note, I want to tell you guys about a story. So there was this person who was a HR, talent acquisition, in the real estate, because Sushmita said the real estate is recovering right now. They were going down a little bit, but they are recovering is what the market research says. And the organization that she was working for turned around and told her that we are going to be reducing the employee salaries. She wasn't happy about that. She said, we're doing fine, but we never know, the market is bad, let's reduce the salary. The government has also said so. They said, okay, let's reduce the employee salaries. Obviously, because people are not coming to work. She was okay with that. Then they turned around and said, we're going to reduce your salary. And she said, why? I'm still coming to work every day and we're still doing the job. So she reached out to me and I told her, well, is the organization doing well? She said, yes, the organization is doing well. Then you need to pick a different organization to work in. Because if you see, most of the organizations that are able to handle this crisis in a positive way are the ones that are actually going to thrive in the year forward. So if you're in an organization where you're not being valued, then you need to look out. And I think she started looking out for a job. Within 3 to 4 days, she got a couple of interviews. Within 2 weeks, she got a new job offer with almost a 30 to 40% salary hike. And no, she did not start this process of reaching out to people only that time. She has been building up connections with people throughout her existing job. So this is what is another advice to people, is don't scramble at the last minute. Only when you are searching for a job, you go to people. That actually sounds a little bit manipulative, because only when you need something, you're reaching out to them. But rather build connections with people and reach out to them when the time is right. When situations like this happen, first of all, like Maria said, people will remember you. They're going to say, oh, I remember that person I met in the coffee shop. She was very interesting, or he was very interesting. I need to call that person. So to be remembered, you need to first build connections and build conversations that will make people remember you. I hope that that story gives you guys like some encouragement, that no matter what happens, if you're looking in the right place, the right opportunity will be there for you. Yeah. So thank you, Maria, once again. I am super happy to have you on the panel, and Sushmita, you as well. Big hug to both of you. Let's give a victory symbol. I want to take a picture here so that I can post this with our key takeaways later. Yeah, give me a victory. Yeah.
Apparently, you're not supposed to be doing that anymore. Your biometrics can be copied from these photos. That's what I was reading yesterday.
Oh,
So
oh my
I'm
God.
I'm gonna avoid doing that one today. Yeah, but I
Okay,
thank you so
thank you.
much for thank you
Thank
so
you.
much
Thank
for
you.
having me.
Maybe we shouldn't even do thumbs up then, right?
Yeah,
Because
I don't know that I was reading yesterday that the newest international joy of the AI world is your biometrics can be copied by these peace signs. So anyway,
oh my God.
that's
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
Thank
So
you. It's always interesting to learn something new because I'm always doing the peace symbol and the thumbs up symbol in all my photos. So thank you for sharing that with me. And all right, then, guys, have a happy Monday evening. Thank you so much for spending your evening with me and to all the job seekers and audience who joined us. Thank you so much for joining. We are going to be having another live with two more HR leaders and experts on next Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. So don't forget to follow. And if you're watching this as a replay, drop your questions in the comments. Shushmita, Maria, and me will come back and we'll answer it as text, or I will take these questions and answer them in the next live session that we are meeting. Yeah. All right, then, guys. Bye bye. Thank you so much for joining.
bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.